Rick, you are the president of the Kennedy Center.
The president, yeah.
Mr. President.
I work for the president.
You work for the president. Donald Trump appointed you, though, to be the person that can change the culture and everything else about the Kennedy Center. Maybe not everything, but how do you do that?
Well, first of all, we started with the finances because it was a mess here. They were paying staff with debt reserves, which I think is outrageous for anybody who understands the budget, meaning you're dipping into that pot of money that you were saving to pay down your balloon payment that's coming up. And when you dip into that, it just means you don't have other revenues. So,
what's the debt for the Kennedy Center, by the way? Isn't it insignificant?
Well, we've got all sorts of different debt, but it's not insignificant. I mean, we took $70 million loan just to do the reach. And so we've got balloon payments that are coming up. So you can't pay the staff with debt reserves. You've got to figure out a way to balance the budget with the current revenue. It's pretty simple. I think most people in America know you got to have more revenue than you're spending, and when you don't have that revenue, you got to cut back on spending. So we have done that. We've done a brand new budget for this year and for next year, and both of those budgets are going to be balanced. We had to make some hard cuts, but I think that bleeds into what we're trying to do on programming, which is bring back big shows. We just started with Les Mis, sold out. It's going to be sold out for the next 4 weeks.
Do you think that USA has ever been chanted before at the Kennedy Center in the 50-year history of the Kennedy Center?
I'm sure it has.
I don't think it has.
I'm sure it has, but the fact is that Donald Trump brings that out of people. We want America to win, and we're proud of it, and we're unapologetic about it. So, look, I want the Kennedy Center to be a place where everyone is welcome, everybody. And when you sit in the seats like last night, I think there needs to be a moment where you're sitting next to somebody, you don't know who they voted for. Maybe they voted for Bernie Sanders. Maybe they voted for Donald Trump.
Right.
But it doesn't matter because we're all watching, Jean Valjean on the stage and having a big moment of coming together. That's what arts does. And I think what's happened and what President Trump wanted to fix was that this institution had become too woke and weak. It was one of those places that just catered to the far left, the fringe left. And you looked at the programming, and we had some really weird programming that reflected in the budget because it didn't sell.
Just quick, what's
tickets.
weird programming?
Look, I think I don't want to say anything specific and get
well, no, I want you to be, because there are people that are going to be at home that aren't, maybe they've never been to Washington, or maybe they've never been to the Kennedy Center, and they're not going to know what you're talking about. But that's relevant, because the reputation now is that the Kennedy Center can't book the big stage names because of Donald Trump being in the White House.
Yeah, well, I would say
which are two elephants in the room, right?
Yeah, I would say that that's not true at all. You look at our programming this year, we've got Les Mis, we've got huge Broadway shows coming that people know all the names. We've got Stuttgart Ballet coming, we've got the Vienna Philharmonic coming, we've got a big Christmas show. We're having all of those big programmings. What we're not doing is the fringe arts education that they call it, right? I think it's really important to have arts education. I think the arts is something that pushes people to think differently, but it doesn't have to be woke and far left and radical every single time. You can have programming that makes you think about the existence of man, and challenges your perception of life after death. But that doesn't have to be some trans kids, movement. And so what I think we're trying to do is, first of all, fix the budget, do big programming. We believe in arts education. We can do that, but that many times is money losers.
So this is the Grand Hall. Again, the building opened up in 1971, so it's 50 years old. But the president has talked a lot about redoing this, and just sort of
needs it.
It's beautiful, but it does need it. It just feels. I thought the president's words were perfect. He said it's got great bones, but it's tired.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's beautiful. Look at these chandeliers. As Melania says, don't touch the chandeliers. I said, yes, ma'am. And I agree. I mean, they're beautiful mid-century modern chandeliers.
Right.
I want you to notice this is an amazing fountain. All the way down here, you see another fountain.
Okay.
These haven't been on in years, and we just turned them on yesterday. We had to have them fixed. We didn't have the money to fix the fountains at the Kennedy Center. They're now up. They look amazing. We're fixing up the whole place.
Yeah, and that's the Potomac River.
This is what you see here in this grand hall.
Right.
we have the Hall of States, so you have the 50 flags of the United States. And we have the Hall of Nations, which is 193 plus countries and their flags. And we're here. Les Mis is about to let out here in just a little bit.
Is that what that is?
You can hear it. You can hear it.
Yeah.
A spectacular show. People should be coming here to see it. It's phenomenal. This is, it's interesting because a lot of people have been saying about Les Mis, the great thing is the stage rotates, but here it's too small. You can't do it.
Right.
And people were wondering, is it going to work? It works.
Okay.
It's amazing. The set is phenomenal.
Any concern about other shows? There were stories about actors that were going to be boycotting and that sort of
Nothing
thing.
happened,
All
right?
And nothing happened. But have you dealt with that as you've tried to book, different productions?
Well, look, this was a anonymously sourced story from CNN.
Right.
Aren't you beating CNN these days?
We beat them a la carte. Yes.
Yeah, come
yes.
on. Look, it all started just people, anonymous people saying, oh, there's going to be a shutdown of the show and actors are going to boycott. They're not. It was a total fake story. But everybody repeated that. Also, we have not canceled any shows. People like the founder and creator of Hamilton,
Right.
Lynn has said
Lin-Manuel Miranda,
he doesn't want to perform in front of Republicans. And so, look, I think that intolerance is exactly what we have decided to do by bringing in Les Mis. Les Mis is about the people. This is a moment where the people are beginning to take over and say, we want our country back. We want our arts institutions back. We don't want the elites who have really given us a lot of lessons of what not to do in life. We don't want the elites controlling everything.
Let's talk about California. There have been a lot of rumors about Ric Grenell dipping his toes into the race there for governor. Could you see yourself running for governor?
Look,
well, no, I think the answer is yes, you could see yourself running. Do you think you will get into this race is probably a better question.
Look, I love California. As you know, I've run this organization called Fix California, which is a very unsexy campaign for the last 5 years to register common sense voters.
Okay.
What I believe is that California needs what Florida did, which is going from, purple to red. It took a long time, a lot of money to re-register. Remember, 50% of our society is not registered to vote.
Right.
Only 50% of your neighbors are registered. And out of the 50 that are registered, only 40% are voting. That's all rough numbers. But look, at the end of the day, we've got to change the numbers because it's a math equation.
Rick, are we going to get into that race?
So this is what I would say. I talked to the president about this yesterday, this exact subject. And what I would say is it's an uphill battle in California. So I'm currently not thinking of running. However, what I've said is if Kamala Harris jumps into the race, she'll win it for the Democrats. She'll be the Democrat nominee. And then every Republican in California is going to have to take a hard look at this race because it suddenly is winnable because we have defined her, we've outed her. She's really stupid. I'm sorry to say that. But we've got to be much more blunt about our leaders. And she's had every opportunity to put a sentence together. She's had every opportunity to come up with and articulate what her policies are and how she would be a change agent or what she would fix. And she can't do it. And so we've spent so much money defining her that regular Californians, Democrats, independents, people that we call decline to state, which is I decline to state or tell you how I'm going to vote. That category in California is huge. All of those people know that Kamala cannot be our leader.
So Kamala,
she cannot be the
if
governor.
she runs, you run. And the president would be okay with that.
No, I didn't say that.
Okay.
If she runs,
sounds like you said that.
she runs, I will take a hard look at it.
Okay. Can Steve Hilton win?
I'm going to take a hard look at it. Everybody will take a hard look at it. I think there'll be a whole bunch of new people looking at the race, whether they jump in or not is a second issue.
Yeah.
But every Republican in California is going to have to take a look at running if she runs. So right now, I think the field is in flux.
Okay. Let's talk about Gavin Newsom.
Yeah.
I thought he disqualified himself during and after the wildfires in January in Los Angeles. And now this is, you live just south of Los Angeles. And just east of Los Angeles. Yeah, you live in Los Angeles County. How can he run for president in less than 4 years? given what's happening right now?
Look, I hope he does run for president because the guy does not work in Michigan or Ohio or Wisconsin. He's a robot. He's a far left robot, and he may get the nomination for the Democrats. I think there's no question he'll raise a lot of money. He's what they want, which is weak and woke. But
It looks the part.
yeah, but at the end of the day, he doesn't work in a single swing state, and so I'd love for him to run.
Okay. This is the Hall of Nations?
Yes.
So how many? 193 flags?
193 countries, yeah.
So that's the Israeli flag right there. And I think
Yep.
there was a lot of reporting yesterday.
That's providing you with a nice little segue.
That's in the business, Rick. That's what we do if you're good. I looked for that flag and I knew this was the spot. No, but there, and I ask you because you were former director of national intelligence and you're a special envoy for the president right now, as well as your duties here at the Kennedy Center, and former U.S. ambassador to Germany, so you're well versed when it comes to foreign policy. There was a lot of reporting last night and then into today that Israel is going to hit those nuclear sites in Iran because they're enriching uranium, and the president said here last night to a Newsmax reporter that Iran cannot get a nuclear weapon. Is that the right thing? Do you think that's going to happen?
Well, first of all, the president is absolutely correct to focus on the fact that they can't get a pathway to a nuclear weapon. Remember that the Biden administration gave Iran, the regime in Iran, tens of billions of dollars in sanctions relief, cash, credit. They took that money and they caused terrorism all over with the Houthis, Hamas, Hezbollah,
Right.
in places like Yemen, Lebanon, Israel. They literally cause chaos and terror activities everywhere they go. We can't allow them to do that. At the same time, though, President Trump is somebody who doesn't want to see new wars. And so the diplomacy part of this is incredibly important, to talk and to try to find diplomatic solutions. And so I think the reality is that Israel, as a close ally, has to coordinate with the United States. They
That was my
can't
next
do
question.
this alone.
So they wouldn't just do this alone. This would be, when you say coordinate, does that mean condone?
No, coordinate just means let's talk about it and let's discuss what
Make
you
the
want
White
to
House
do.
aware?
No, what you want to do and coordinate. I think therein lies the diplomatic
Right.
discussion. But I think the reality is that we know and Israel knows they can't do this alone. They're a great ally of ours, and so we need to have these discussions.
Okay, and then on the other side of that, how does Iran respond? Iran put out a statement today essentially saying they will target U.S. bases in that region in the Middle East.
Well, look, we have to take all of the crazy talk from Iran very seriously, but they usually have crazy talk.
Information. Truth. Is freedom. Is Newsmax. It's real news for real people.